Today is super exciting. One, because it's a culmination of all the hard work that Joel mentioned, Dr. Singleton mentioned, but it's also a beginning. And that these guys have put in a lot of hard work, and these families have put in a lot of hard work to get where they are. But there's a new step coming, and you get to make a new impact. And first thing I want to do is I want to talk about recruiting and how it's changed a little bit. And this is going to be the Coach Andrews modified version, but I think you need to hear it and try to understand it somewhat. With the transfer portal and NIL and all these things changing, recruiting has changed. How to go about it has changed. What colleges are looking for has changed. And it's changed how many high school athletes really get a chance to play college football. And just to kind of explain it to you. First of all, last year there was a House vote that basically said, hey, we're going to limit the Power 4 programs, the big FBS programs to 105 student athletes. And so a lot of them had about 130. So you're starting to cut down the number of student athletes that have a chance to play in those big programs. With that being said, the transfer portal is something where guys are bouncing from one place to another. And so 10 years ago, 15 years ago, as a high school coach, you might have 10 to 12 guys on a high school football team that are in a signing class. And what would happen is, of those 10 or 12 guys, a couple of them wouldn't quite make it, or they would get to that school and maybe they weren't as good as the school thought they were, but they would finish their 4 years out and continue to play, and the school would just recruit more players. Now, if a guy gets to a school and he doesn't perform at the level they want him to, they tell him to get in the transfer portal and they transfer him out. Well, what do you think the school's going to replace him with? Are they going to replace him with a high school kid or a transfer portal player? A transfer portal player. And so they are going to pull a kid from Division II or FCS or NAIA up and say, hey, maybe in high school you were only 220 pounds and we need you to be 250 pounds. And their first 2 years of college at NAIA or Division II or a smaller school, they grow and develop. And so what that's turned into is that today, unless you are super, super tall, super, super fast, super, super strong, or you're exceptional in one area, it is very hard to sign with those Power 4 programs like Georgia, Georgia Tech, those kind of schools. So I say that to say that today's Division II scholarships and NAIA scholarships are equivalent to 10 years ago what were the Division I scholarships. And as you look at these guys and the opportunities these guys have created for themselves and the work that they can put into it, I'm super proud of them. The next thing that's changed in recruiting, it used to almost always go through the high school coaches. And it may not be the head coach, but a coach on staff. A lot of good relationships were built. But what's happened is that now the Division II programs, and there are so many of them that are starting to give opportunities, they don't have time to build relationships with all the high school coaches. So where does a lot of the recruiting go to? Social media. And I know that people constantly tell you how bad social media is. It can be a great tool for the recruiting process. All four of these guys did a tremendous job of using social media in the recruiting process. It can be something that's tricky though, because if you get on social media, you can get into some dark holes. You can sit there and you can look at, hey, this guy's getting offered, this guy's getting this guy's saying this, and the truth is it's not all true. It's not all real. Anybody can post anything they want on social media, but it can put people in a bad head place. What these guys did a tremendous job of was using social media as a platform and a tool to market themselves with their qualities, their strengths, to create opportunities for themselves. They didn't get caught up in watching what other people were doing. And that leads me into kind of the next part that I want to brag on all four of these. So I'm going to talk collectively about these guys first, and then I'll get into the individuality of them. Collectively, you guys did a fantastic job of being Walnut Grove Warriors while you were Walnut Grove Warriors. You were where your feet were. And what I mean by that, they didn't spend all of their time saying, I got to go play college football. I got to go play college football. Although it was a goal and is a goal for each one of them, they spent their time saying, I want to be the best I can be right here, right now, for my teammates and this team while I'm here. And today we're going to celebrate that they're moving on, which I don't like. But I am so proud of each one of you, the way that you guys have been teammates, the way that you guys have served this team and served this school, and been here while you still had goals. You were here and you were living here. And I'm proud of you for that. And I think we need to give them all a hand for that, because that's awesome. The next thing collectively about this group, and it ties into this whole class of seniors that I feel like that these guys have lived it. They cared about each other. They understood that football was bigger than them. Football is something that they just do. It's not who they are. It's not their identity. When they were going through the recruiting process and the coach said, hey, we want something different, they didn't take that personal. They knew that, hey, that's okay. It's not the right fit for me. But they loved their teammates. They lived for their teammates. They understood that it was not just about them, and it was about something bigger than them. And football was a piece of who they are and what they do, but it's not their identity. They do not identify just as football players. Now, what I'd like to do, I'm going to start down here with Cam. All right, Cam is going to sign with Point University. One last thing I wanted to mention. All of these guys, where they are signing, there's somebody that went before them and that helped to open the door and create opportunities for them. Cam is signing with Point University, and last year Cameron Brown signed with Point University. And while Cameron's career there has ended because he hurt his shoulder, Cameron Brown's character, while he was there, his work ethic while he was there, helped to open doors for the opportunity for Cameron, as well as I believe Jake and Jack had an offer from Point University. And so what Cameron did before helped to open that door for Cameron Clark. And here's what I want to say about Cameron. Cameron is one of the hardest workers that I've ever met. And he is a guy that does not speak a lot to me. He may talk to y'all more than he does maybe. Sometimes. But he's a guy that he is always where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be, and doing what he's supposed to be doing with the very best of his ability. And those character traits are going to carry you far through life. Never had to once check on Cameron's grades. Never had to say, hey, where's Cameron today? He always communicated if there was something that came up. And I don't know if there was anybody that could ever outwork him. And Cameron, I'm so proud of the opportunity that you've earned. And I think, are you ready to sign your letter of intent there? All right, next up is Jackson. As I talked about connections and relationships and people that went before, kind of an interesting fact about Jackson and then going to the Air Force Academy. His position coach reached out to him, and we went and looked to see when the position coach was there. And one of the cool things was that his position coach actually played in the Air Force Academy as well as came back to coach there. And when he played there, when he was a freshman, a former player of mine was a senior there and played the same position. And that former player did a great job at Air Force Academy, which I'm sure left a good mark in Coach Dean's eyes about somebody that came from our program. And then there was another player that actually, when he came back to coach, was playing there as well, but did a fantastic job. So there were some connections there with guys that had gone before him to give him that opportunity. We talked about Jackson here for a minute. I get to speak on this one a little bit differently because not only am I his coach, but I'm also his dad. And I'm super proud of the opportunity that you've earned. Your hard work, your diligence has been fantastic. Doesn't help that the mom's up here crying. I saw him individually. While I know all of these guys went through this, I got to watch him in middle school when COVID hit, and he was tugging on me and saying, "Hey, Dad, let's go work out. Let's go work out. Let's go do this. Hey, can we go do this? I want to get better here. I want to get better there." Constantly asking questions about how we can get better, how we can do better. And that persistence, that diligence, that effort, you've earned it. Go ahead and sign. All right, these next two. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Last year we had to make a rule with these two that whenever we had competitions with the team, they could not be on the same team. They're the two most competitive individuals that I think I've ever been around in my life. I would not want to be in their house playing Go Fish. And that's not just about the boys. I think the whole family's probably wired that way. These guys, I got to really watch them go through the recruiting process, and I got to see and hear some of the ups and downs for them when and coach would reach out and then it would go silent, or they would get a flurry of 3 or 4 opportunities that didn't turn out to be good fits, that they didn't tell, even though the opportunity was there, it wasn't a good fit, whether it was financial, or whether it was out the location, or whatever it was. And you can kind of feel and I could hear their disappointment and frustration with that. They did a fantastic job of staying in course. But the word I'm going to use the same word for both of them as I'm talking about it. The word is passion. I don't know that I've ever had 2 players play with as much passion as these 2 played with. And I'll tell Jay's story first. One of the things that the coach that I talk about and the staff talk about, we want players that are on the edge. We want players that play with everything they've got, every ounce of everything they've got. They're going to lay it on the line, and sometimes they might go just a little bit too far. But we can pull that back. We can always rein that in. It's hard to push them to the edge. And Jake is one that spent a lot of time on the edge. A lot of time. And this year, I believe, I don't remember exactly which game it was. I think it was the first game of the season. He incurred a personal foul. And it was about the 18th one of his career. That was his second game. And I basically had to pull Jake in and say, Jake, look, no more. I think we did about 100 burpees. And then we talked about it happened again, that get 1,000 burpees in playing time. I think if I remember the conversation. Do you remember it? Right. And so we are in the second game of the season at the end of the first half. And I can remember plain as day, we got an interception. And there was a block in the back that was very physical and aggressive, and it was a penalty. And it was a personal foul of it as well. And they called it on number 6. And Jake just heard that it was on number 6, and he knew what I had said. And as we go into the locker room, I can't find Jake at halftime. And because with all of his passion, I don't know if he was tearing the bricks down behind the locker room, but he was losing his mind. And I even said, hey, look, and I saw the play, it wasn't you, you're going to be okay. It did very little to calm him down. But Jake is one of the most passionate young men that I've ever been around, and he's passionate about football, he's passionate about teammates, he's passionate about his family, and he's going to become more passionate about his academics as he goes to college. Let's give it up for Jake. All right, Jack and passion. I believe that Jack could play this game on one leg. In fact, he tried to. Against Teaching for Sight, had a very serious ankle sprain, and he continued to try to get back out on the field. As coaches, we finally had to say, no more, you can't do it. It's not happening. And he was very upset. And after the game, he was so upset. And what? He was upset not only about not winning the game, but he was upset because he felt like he had let you guys down. He felt like he had let the team down. And his passion in that moment and through that time is something that I haven't seen that from very many. And your passion and your love for this team is unlike anything that I've seen. And I know my story about Jack is not as long, but it had just as much passion in it. And Jack, congratulations. I'm looking forward to watching you play, even if it's on one leg.